Good morning.
Good morning.
For a lot of you, that was probably the longest minute that you'll have today. I feel we do not take enough time to be in that silence. Even though we were silent, it was very noisy in here. Lots of thoughts going on. Why is he doing this? I didn't come here to sit quiet. I came here to listen. Very noisy. Can you imagine if all of our thoughts were audible? How many friends would you have? Or would we all be friends? The topic of the month is curiosity. And I've been exploring the inner part of curiosity. What's going on inside the mind. And it's very interesting to hear that inner voice. The CSL Global theme is living out loud. My theme for the year is living in silence a lot more and living in inner thought. Listen to that inner voice. And I'm kind of feeling like a child all over again. I had a great childhood. Exploring, being very adventurous, riding my bike out to the creeks and exploring there and just having an absolute wonderful time, and going home when I was hungry and back on the bike out to the creek. But I also had some traumatic experiences in my life, and I will share some of them with you. I'm hoping I can keep it together. Interesting how I'm feeling different right now than I was feeling a couple of days ago, even yesterday, or even this morning in the shower about the talk. But anyway, let me start as, let's say maybe, I think I was probably about 11, 12, maybe 13 years old. As a child, I had to go to Sunday school every Sunday, and I was a bit of a disruptor in the class, as I was in school also, but I'll get to that possibly. So I had a lot of questions for the Sunday school teacher, and I didn't get the answers I wanted. And so I became disruptive, and then as punishment, they would, the Sunday school teacher would send us upstairs to sit in the back row of the church. And that was quite the punishment, because the minister could see that somebody was sitting in the back row. There's Wes Krahn again, Mr. Krahn's son. So that was embarrassing, humiliating, because I couldn't get my questions answered. It was a form of discipline to stop asking questions. I finally figured out the best way to deal with that was when the Sunday school teacher sent me upstairs to sit in the back row of the church. Why not just leave? Go out the back door. So that's what I did for the next couple of times I was being punished for that. And then it came to the point where I was no longer asked to go to Sunday school. That certainly was not fun day school like we had here, or had here. And so I had a bit of a childhood that was, in my school years, I was bullied. And I certainly wasn't the biggest guy in the class. So I had to learn to cope another way. And that way was through being a verbal bully, I guess. And so that is the way I learned to not get bullied. Because the bullies would laugh and then they would be entertained and then they wouldn't pick on me anymore. And that got me quite far, actually. But it wasn't healthy. It wasn't good. And also as a child, I read the Bible every night, which was an interesting thing for a guy that didn't seem to really believe in a higher power, or as that time was called, God. And it certainly made my parents very happy that I was doing that. Even if I was out partying the night till 3 o'clock in the morning, I would come home and I would still read the Bible. And to this day, I don't really know what drew me to that. But it did. Something did. And I had a lot of questions for my parents about religion, God. And they didn't have the answers. And so my parents brought in a minister into my home without telling me the reason for why the minister was there. And then it became very clear to me that my parents had invited him over for dinner to talk to me. I felt like I had been blindsided, although I was not afraid. But my parents left the table and I was sitting there. I was told to stay with the minister and ask him some questions, and I did. I had some difficult questions for him, like, why would a God of love create a devil? And why is a God of love condemning certain tribes, certain people? I had a whole bunch of questions. I don't remember all of them, but those certainly were the ones that still stick in my head. And he got up finally, shook his head, and he walked over to my mom and said, "You've got a troubled child." And kind of left. I was never asked to come back to church, which was okay with me as a teenager. But I didn't enjoy the fact that I had been kind of blindsided. but I got over that. And now, kind of go back to maybe like 10, 11, 12 years old, and probably this went on until 13. My mother, as a form of punishment, used to give me straps. And she had another form of punishment, which was threatening to kill herself. And she had another form that said she's going to run away and never come home. And the other form was not speaking to us for a week. Or sometimes to my sister it would be more than a week, sometimes 2 weeks. And as a child, I guess I was devastated, obviously. The one that's supposed to love you is not speaking to you, and so I would do absolutely anything to try and get her to talk. And to be honest, the strappings were better than the not talking. Because I know after a strap, then she would be okay. She would have released her anger. And then she'd be talking to me again. But the not talking was really harmful. So, I guess where this all works in to my present day life is exploring the inner workings of the mind, being curious as to what or why I feel the way I feel, and why I act the way I act. And I really love my job. I've been doing the same thing for pretty while, 35 years. There's times where I really have to, well, maybe closer to 40. Anyway, there's times where I really have to think and figure stuff out. I'm a contractor, so there's moments when you really have to use your head to make things work. But there's also times where I do stuff that is so mundane, so repetitive, that it just allows my mind to wander. And sometimes that's pleasant, and sometimes it's not. And I'm sure we've all experienced times where our mind has overcome pretty much everything that we're doing in a day or in the moment. But for me, having this teaching behind me, it certainly helps me focus and look at really what's going on. And just recently, this is kind of where it all ties in, is I've had a friend who I've had some most beautiful conversations, and a lot of them spiritual, and a lot of laughter and joy. And there's something going on in this person's life. And this person has decided to not communicate with me. And it's so interesting. Where my mind goes. And it goes back to my childhood. Unbelievable how the activity in my mind is just alive, like so alive, so full of wanting this person to talk to me. Trying many different angles to get this person to communicate with me. And it's not happening. It's not happening. And all of a sudden at work, one day, a light came on in my head, and it's just like, oh my God, this is the whole childhood scenario playing out in my head. And as conscious as I think I am from this teaching, it overpowered me. It took me by total surprise at how active my mind was in this area. And it was so challenging to let those thoughts go. But I know that that's what needs to happen. Just witness them and allow them to pass. The ego is so incredibly strong that it just keeps wanting to feed on this problem. And it's just there, and I just let it pass by, let it pass by. Don't give it energy. So challenging. So that's where I'm kind of at in this whole dilemma, is just feeling it and letting it go. And I spoke to some other person about this, and I was informed that this person needed space, that it was not me that was the issue. This person needed space. And I'm thinking that this person didn't know how to tell me that. And I'm sure that's what it was for my mom too. She did not know how to handle her emotions. And so she would take it out on us as children. This person that is not speaking to me, I know, is not consciously doing this, because that's not the personality of this person. But I seem to take it on. And I'm choosing to let that go. I'm choosing to not fall into that trap. And And that's what this teaching has taught me so much. But I'm still amazed at how unconscious I can still be after doing classes here. I've been a practitioner here in the years past, and there's a lot of teaching that is involved in that, and Judy and April can attest to it. But it doesn't eliminate it. It's an ongoing thing. It's just keeps going. So I guess what this comes down to for me and my message to you is explore that inner voice. Listen to that inner voice. Don't necessarily get drawn into it, but be aware of it. I find myself still unconscious a lot of the time. I mean, I will never reach total consciousness, as very few people ever have, if one ever has. But just to be aware, listen. Who's saying that? Whose voice is that? Is that your mom? I know it was my mom. Who taught you that? Explore that. Don't let it, I wouldn't suggest to let it overtake you, but just kind of be curious as to who that is, what that is. And Judy had a nice line in meditation this morning. I so enjoy these meditations in the morning. And for those of you that do not come for 10:30 meditation, I encourage you. It can certainly bring in a beautiful mindset. The line that she said in the meditation that really caught me today was, listen to the song of the universe. Song of the universe is love. Listen to that song. We're all in this together. We're all explorers. We're all curious. Ernest Holmes, the founder of this teaching, was curious, right? I mean, he had the questions that no one could answer to, and he had to dive deep into many different religions to come up with his answers. Not all of his answers are my answers, and they wouldn't be yours either. So thank you for going on this journey with me. I appreciate your attention. And I love you all. Thanks for being here. So it is.